Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Kepley, lead us to the pledge, please.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
First item on the agenda, we have the racetrack bid award. Is there anybody here representing the racetrack bids? I guess not, or is it? Huh?
So question on that. Today we're just deciding who we're going with, but not finalizing the contract. Is that correct?
I believe the contract has to have some dates amended to it from what the previous was, but I think we can award it and send the contract out and have both parties agree that if everything's in agreement the way it's rewritten in those particular instances, I think that's probably what we'll do at this point in time. Is everybody kind of in agreement with that, or?
I agree.
One concern I had was there was some concerns from some fair board members that in the past they've not been given access to the area prior to Fair Week. So I think we should reflect that in the contract, that the county fair grounds and fair manager should be able to get in there at any time. I don't think, sometimes they got to do some measuring, some updating, some configuring, and I don't think that would be. So let's make sure that we make that change in here. Then the other question that I had on the contract was the relationship that our county highway department has had in the past with the dirt work. I think that we've talked to Dirk a little bit about that, and I think he's coming in later, but that we are not responsible at all for the dirt work. And I think in the past there's been some rental agreements going on between the folks that have it and the county, but I think he has made mention that he would prefer to not have any of that expected. So I think the contract itself we should read through and make sure we firm some of those things up.
I would agree with you.
But I'm good with the high bid, or the high proposal.
Well, we had two bids. There was a lower bid and a higher bid, and anybody that's on Facebook, the lower bid actually was in favor of us placing the bid with a high bid. So that was kind of established on Facebook, that went around on Facebook. So I guess if there's any other questions, we will award the high bid to Al Neitzel and the, some LLC company, Motorsports LLC.
I would make that motion.
I'll second it. Motion by Kipley, second by Fikert to approve the racetrack bid of the Al Neitzel and the LLC. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have to have Chris Todd rewrite the contract, or can we just take those amendments and do it?
Up to you guys. I can take a stab at it and work with Chris.
Okay. Then probably look at the contract next Tuesday, and then...
And if everybody else wants us to read through it, see if there's
Yep.
any other amendments we should make,
Okay,
let me
will do.
know and we'll incorporate them.
Will do. Okay. We got about 2 minutes. Kathy, you want to just do a couple of the...
Yes, we have general meeting minutes from August 27th.
Move.
Oh, that's not August 27th. It's been last week.
What's that?
August 27th, down to August 26th.
Approve the general, we have a motion by Sutton, a second by Weiss to approve the general meeting minutes from August 20th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Claim.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Fikert, second by Sutton to approve claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
HR report.
Move. Second.
Moved by Weiss, second by Sutton to approve the HR report. All in favor?
One question before we take a vote. How long have we been without that deputy in ROD? Does anybody know?
Me.
The
The one that
registered-
just left?
The rehiring and the...
Yeah, that was just about a month probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't know if that was another spot we should look at.
Oh, I see.
But if everybody else is good with it, I'll roll with it.
Well, basically, the position was is when Roberta took over the head deeds, and that left that position open, so that's been going on since about the first of the year.
They've been
So-
short a person since January 1st?
Well, we've had,
No, there's been someone in there for a while, quite a while already.
isn't this the second person? There was one other one hired, and then that one left, and then the last one came in, so there's been 2 hired since then.
Correct.
Since Roberta's been there.
I emailed her this morning to see how long we've had that opening, just.
Well, it's actually been opening since she took the position of deeds.
Okay, so it has,
But we've had people come in, but haven't worked out or else,
gotcha.
so.
Okay.
That's what I'm- All in favor of the HR was, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, she just left August 8th, so not even a
Yeah.
month.
Fair contract?
I think we'll move by Kipley,
Second.
second by Sutton, to approve the fair contracts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I think we'll go on to our next agenda item then. Next item on the agenda, we have Patricia Kendall, Dakota Prairie Museum Director, 2020 budget.
Morning.
Morning, Patricia.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for your time this morning, and I won't take up too much of it. I do want to start with a little good news for you. 2018 at the museum this past year was our best year ever for walk-in attendance, for our events, for people through the door, for our workshops. We had 17,684 people come through our door. And with our outreach, which was another 52,000, that's every time we have an exhibit out in the public. We do go out to the schools, we have something at the airport, another 52,000, so reached about 70,000 people in our community last year. This year, it was cold, it snowed, they tore up our streets in front of our door. So this year, maybe not quite so much, but I have charged the staff with the mission of, in 2020, to increase our attendance by 10% over the last 3-year average. So I would like to see 18,000 people come through our door. Because we're that community place. We want to be open and available and have fun things to do. So I said, come back to me with workshops and special days, one and done, more book talks. They were very popular last year. So they're excited about that. They want to come back and say, let's do adult history camp. Let's do something fun. Let's have artists come in and show people how to do things, heritage art. That's our goal for 2020. And I just want to point out, too, here's a great little book, 101 Museum Programs for $100. So this is our goal for next year.
We're loving it.
Yeah, I do, too. I have some smart people on my staff, and this is what I want them to do. So, and another fun thing that's coming up, big thing actually, the new Northern Science Building has an exhibit space, and they've asked us to do something there. And that's huge for us, because it's not just like a case on the wall, it's actually out in the open, like a 4-sided glass exhibit space. So we are seriously considering that. So that would be a great outreach for us and presence in the community. I'm going to let you know some other good news from this budget, 2019. I'm set to return to the county about 30,000 is what's going to come back to you. As I had previously proposed, I cut about 24% of my operational budget from 2019, so that's another like $25,000 there. Here is one additional cut that we would like to make, and we would like to cut the granary from our 2020 budget. We've done our best. We've done everything we can. It's a wonderful place, and it's valid in its art and its cultural significance, but it's always been over and above our regular duties, and we can only do so much. So we would like to cut that from our budget. And when we do that, it's not just the operational costs that we'd be cutting, but those ancillary expenses that come along with it, which are, I've already discontinued the cell phone because everybody has a cell phone now. We don't need it for the granary. Mileage for staff to go out there, it's 22 miles there, so 44 miles round trip. Mowing, we'll cut the mowing, which is another $1,500 for personnel to do that. Weed and pest, we won't need them out there either. So I would be looking between now and the end of 2020 of, saving the county about $65,000 total. In which case, I would really appreciate it if you consider restoring my full-time position for my office staff. Like I said, the granary was always over and above our regular duties. Eliminating the granary won't eliminate the need for us to have that office staff. Currently, right now, I've taken back about half that job with my current job, and the other staff are trying to figure out what they can do to help out to, keep us functioning at our optimal. So, in order to meet those 2020 goals that I'm set of bringing more people in through our front door here at the museum, which, we're, like I said, we're a great community space and service, and for free. People come to us for entertainment, for education, for connecting with each other. I don't know where else they could find that, the library, I'm sure, but we're just a little bit more varied in our offerings in the library. So in order to fund my person, my regular staff for next year, I hope that these cuts that I've made and concessions that I've done, that you would seriously consider restoring that position to me. We will always be good stewards of county funds. We will not, we always will take that seriously. We're always going to be good team players, and we really want the county to benefit from having the museum. It just makes it a better place to live, which makes people want to come here and live here and hopefully pay their taxes, and it's a nice full circle. So, does anybody have any questions?
What is a proposal for the granary? I mean, what, if we don't fund it, what do we do with it? I mean, are we just let it go up to weeds, or what happens?
No,
I mean,
I've
how far
spoken-
into it is the county, I guess that's...
Well, I've spoken to Kathy Johnson, who is the family. They would like to know how to get it back. What is the process? What is the legal means to do that? What are the costs to do that? So I had a very good conversation with her, and she understands too, because they live right across the street, that we have done everything, that we have worked out there. I've trimmed trees, we've had the events, we've done everything that we could. So she talked to her family, and they want to know how it is that they can return that to the family.
They're willing, they're willing if we do the work to legally, they'll take it back.
Yes, and they would probably just have it at the park.
Sure.
Or the green space. They wouldn't run it. We may also be able to use it for our camp.
Sure.
We still want that relationship with them. I told her I didn't want to dissolve the relationship because it's good. It's good. It's special. And the foundation, thank you to our foundation, gave us a van so that we could use it for transporting art camp students, but also so that we can have, fun historical, let's go see historical sites, have people sign up and take them out, and maybe, I've never been to the Ordway Prairie. I'd love to go there. I think other people would like to, but they've never had somebody put it together for them. So we would use that van still, if we have our camp out there, we would still take them out there. She was open to that. And there are some things we'd like to keep, like maybe the Fall History Festival, but maybe we could have it in town, and then we'd have people.
I guess the other question is whether or not that property, if anybody was paying taxes on it, and whether or not those are things probably, if it goes back to Johnson's or C's, it somehow would get back on the tax rolls, I would think, too.
And she had questions about that too, how that would work, because previously they had a nonprofit, so how do we, and so she would like to have good conversations about that. And I said that I would find out how to get that going.
Probably something the State Attorney's office is going to probably have to work on.
I know they dissolved the nonprofit and then transferred it to the county. And so whether or not they have to recreate that, some of that might be on their end, because if they're gonna keep it in the park, there's gonna be liability issues. So, yeah, I'll mention it to Chris. And if we get in touch with their counselor, if she wants to come in and talk to us about ideas, that would be fine.
May I contact your office?
Yeah.
Well, I have to applaud you, Patty, because that is not an easy decision to make.
No.
And you've been thrown into a tough situation by the current tax situation and by this body, and for you to come with some options, I mean, that speaks volumes about your leadership, so thank you.
Thank you, and I have been told, welcome to county government. And yes, thank you for the warm welcome. But I want to make it work, because I know that we can do good things and we can make you look good. I hope that someone comes up to you on the street and said, oh, you've got a great museum. I can't believe that you have this in this a town this size. And I really, really would like that addition to be filled next year. This year we will get along this year. Like I said, we will return some money at the end of the year. And I just wanted to point out too that in the past, since 2008, the museum has returned about $131,000, about $12,000 average. So we budget for things we think we can do. We do it as economically as we can, and then we give back the extra. We don't spend it down, just to spend it down, which I would never do, just because I have it. Any other questions?
Well, I think we're working on budget a little bit after this.
Yeah, just a few minutes, just updated
So maybe
report.
we can take this into consideration for 2020, and do you have kind of some hard numbers with the travel where we might be able to take some and move it if we do decide to put the person back?
I've already gone through.
Prepared.
Yes, well,
Okay.
that's just, I think I was born for public administration, maybe, but, so what you can see is I have our 2019 amount that we requested and what our total was, and it's in blue, and I'm sorry, I came out kind of late. But then you see 2020 total requested is where I've adjusted all of my numbers. There's zero there for the granary. And then the cost difference over here, when you see red, that means it's less than this year. So about 30,000 less. Operations about 31,000 less. So that's where I would return. So it's about, operational now is just about a 30% decrease over 2019. And then overall about a little over 7%. Now, my salary totals will change in 2021 because I'll have somebody retiring and there's a payout. You've got a payout. And the payout is worked into here, so that kind of artificially bumps it up about $10,000 for salary. But that'll go away in 2021. Yeah, today. Okay. Did I do it? Oh, there you go.
You're fine.
I thought I could. But there you go.
Well, I appreciate that you've had a conversation with Kathy and they're checking with their family and so forth, and under the circumstances, if they're willing to take responsibility back, and details to be worked out, but they had it before, it'd just be some things to work through.
A little bit of disappointment, but also a lot of understanding, and I really do respect that relationship, and I respect that family.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't their vision to begin with, so I get that.
Well, the nice piece of it is, if it does return, it's in much better shape than what it was. I mean, you guys have done so much out there. The roof, the structures are better.
We've painted, we've filled holes, we've done what, middle-aged women can do. And not so middle-aged, some of us a little younger, so we've done it.
I think it was a great asset while we've had it, but I think the biggest deterrent was the mileage. I think it's just hard to have something that far out of town and make it successful. I mean, that was probably the biggest drawback of that whole situation, and
if it'd been on the highway, we probably
yeah, I think it would have made all the difference in the world. I think that was probably the biggest drawback of that facility.
And the family knows that too.
Mm-hmm.
They know.
just under the budgetary situation that we're in and so forth. But, Mr. Tipley, I applaud you for
Thank you.
looking long range things. What can we do and what can we do well?
Right, and I'm thinking 2020, 2021, because, and I will give credit to Two Gates for taking this building from a dusty, closed-in box and bringing it up to what it is now. And for me, it's like it's sitting on jet fuel, and it's just waiting for us to ignite the match, for it to really take off and really be that shining community jewel and county. Counties are community.
Well, thank you for the numbers and having those ready, and we'll
Thank you.
And thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fitton.
Thank you.
Everyone else. Thank you, board members.
Yeah, this is my van club.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Next item, we have Mr. Dirk Rogers with Highway Department with some right-of-ways.
Morning, Dirk.
Morning.
I can't compete with the misery at the museum.
Oh, there's misery at the highway.
Really?
There isn't anything you want to close down, huh?
He's smiling.
Oh, yeah,
Leave him alone.
that part will take care of itself then. It's gonna close itself down, you don't have to worry about that. We got some right-of-ways first today. Believe it or not, we gotta talk about one of them, but I want to do these other ones first because I don't have any issues with them. First one I got here is from Northern Electric. It's just a bore underground cable. It's right up here on Fordham Mile, just a mile off of 281 there. They're just boring under to put a new service in. Don't see any big deal with it. I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Sutton, second by Kipley to approve the right-of-way for Northern Electric. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we got one for East River Electric. And this one is a mile south of Warner on the old highway. So there's the old highway, railroad tracks, and they're just boring underneath the road for electrical, connect up the electrical service down there. They've been updating some other stuff east of there too.
Moved by Weiss, second by Thacker to approve the right-of-way for East River Electric. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, these next two are from Northern Valley. And that's why I called Bob this morning. This isn't anything to do with Northern Valley or what they do or how they do it. If this was anywhere else, we wouldn't even I wouldn't have any comment about it. But we have two of them up at Westport, where I spend a lot of time with them, mad at me as it is. So the first one is right along Road 9 coming in. You know, this is coming in from the highway, right before you get to town. I would recommend this one for approval. There's nothing snaky about it. They're just boring under the road and then going down our ditch a little bit over towards towards Road 10 there.
So move.
Second.
Who's the Northern is
I'm
or
sorry.
contractor or
Northern Valley. Northern Valley.
Northern Valley, yeah.
As a contractor for?
K&H will be doing the underground.
Okay. Thank you.
Who moved it? Second. Moved by Thacker, second by Sutton to approve the Northern Valley to contract with K&H. Is that the
So that's
K&H
one.
Electric?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, this is the same company, same contractor, same everything. The only reason I'm pointing this out is this is boring underneath 10 going through town. I have no idea where our jurisdiction is anymore. I really don't. And what happened, as you can see,
Put the town there.
Yeah, exactly. Westport, there's only 6 or 7, and Bob, you can correct me, when the railroad laid out all these towns, there's only 6 or 7 different designs to every town in the state.
Yep.
The original plat, they're all the same. If you look at this original plat, this one in Claremont look almost identical because the railroad was at an angle and they just built the town parallel to the railroad tracks. And the county road many years ago, and I don't want anybody researching this too much, but came into town, did something in town and went out that way. There was no north-south road ever. And then later on, when the state as the state does things. We're putting a road here, boom, right through town, as you can see how it dissected all these, and Gary can attest, because when we were up there looking at remnant properties that the county had, we had all these freaking little corners and remnants and stuff up there because this road goes through there. In Warner, Frederick, I think Barnard's another one that's a little squirrely. But in Frederick and Warner, we have the middle 24 feet. What happens outside of that's the city's deal. As you remember, we've been in here screwing around with drainage and all this other stuff, and every time we do, there ends up being a goat rope with the city of Westport. So what I asked him, I don't have a problem with them boring under the road at these locations. What I don't know is normally when they go and ask and bore, they're going to put their bore pit in our ditch or on private property, depending on how far they're going. So their permit covers them boring under our road, their utility being there, their bore pit being in the ditch. I don't know if these are our ditches. I don't know how far back they got to go to do their boring stuff. They're going to get outside of this somehow. So what I asked Bob is he may want to talk to Westport, because they do have some kind of organized government there, and
So we can give them authority to dig within our jurisdiction,
right,
but we don't know what it is.
Which I'm not 100% certain what it is. And
At least under the road.
yeah. So however you guys want to address that, I don't care. Again, I don't have any problem with them doing it, with the company, how they do it. It's just, I'm trying
Their township board meets the first Monday of every month at the city hall.
Okay.
That would probably be the best place to go and just tell them this is what's going on, so they've got a heads up. I mean, if they're, that way if they're gonna give their blessing, we're doing our thing, there shouldn't be any problem. But I think sometimes they change that, but they do have.
What we're doing is we're changing everything in town to broadband fiber optics instead of just copper. And usually nobody objects to that.
Westport needs some help for
Yeah.
connectivity.
I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the biggest thing is communicating with Westport. I don't think there's
Yeah.
any question, the township and Westport.
So do you
What it
want
looks like
them to
me.
take any action relative to our jurisdictional part, or do you want to wait and do?
I'll take care of everything. I just need permission to go across your road or into your road.
Fine with me.
I would make a motion that we approve them accessing what we are responsible for, with the understanding that anything else has to be cleared with Westport.
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Sutton, second by Weiss, to approve P&H to bore under County Road 10 for the responsibility of the county, with the balance of the responsibility being cleared with the Westport, city of Westport. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you much.
Yeah, actually, in my day, there was some reluctance on a few people's part because we were eliminating eight-party lines, and they didn't want to lose the connection.
Yeah. It's really can listen to you.
Listen to what the neighbors are
Saves
doing.
me just a little bit, doesn't it?
Thank you.
What do we got next?
The Volkswagen grant.
Yeah, let's talk about that quick.
That sounds like quite the project.
It is. I'm going to go in a big circle here. My point in talking to you about this is to gauge your willingness to access the emergency snow money to provide our part of the match for this. There's no money in next year's budget for any equipment, so I'm not going to deviate from that until you guys tell me the funding's different. So this is an opportunity that came up. It's tied to Volkswagen line about their diesel emissions, and then everybody did a class action lawsuit, and South Dakota got $8 million as a result of that. And through the DNR, through the Clean Air Program, they're distributing grants to replace trucks. I have to get some more details on a few things about that, because you have to disable the old one and show them that you disabled it, like drill a hole through the engine block. It's not like we can take something and go surplus it. They have to be scrapped out. You have to send proof that the old diesel engine is no longer functioning in order to qualify for the grant, or that's one of the requirements for it. But what they'll do is with our, like the last truck we bought would have qualified for 25% grant for that one. The one I would try to purchase will qualify for a 35% grant because it'll meet California emissions, which is a little steeper than the rest of the free world. And then you can get a 45% grant for a full electric truck. which I would love to try, except there's none that, they don't have them in production yet, big ones, semis and dump trucks. We could get a smaller, like a Class 4 truck, you know, like a F550, F650, some of those are full electrics, that size, but that's not really, you know, what we would need. So, given our current situation, if we access the emergency snow money, you can't buy a semi with the snow money. You can buy a loader, you can buy a tractor to mow, you can buy, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but yeah, snow blowers and things like that, but you have to buy a plow truck. So what we would do is, it'd have a fifth wheel on it in the summer like we're doing now. It would be a plow truck in the winter. This program, we're talking a year out before these trucks would be delivered. It'd be the end of next year. It's like any other program through the government. It's extremely quick. But, so that's what I'm saying. I have more questions I need to have answered. Like, can we disable an old semi and then buy a tandem truck, even though it'll sort of be serving the same purpose because of both that fifth wheels on them? You know, there's some minutia in there I have to work through to see about it. Little history on the emergency snow money. There's $464,000 or $434,000 in there right now. I can't remember. Do you know off the top of your head?
423.
423. I had the right numbers. They're just switching around. But I think we accessed it. The only other time I know we accessed it was in 2000 or 2001. We bought a snow blower, kind of reacting to the damage that had been done out of 97, 98. We didn't use it 10 or 11. Wouldn't have used it this year had we not been looking at our issues going forward. The other thing with the emergency snow money, I was sitting here going, well, if we didn't use it this year, when the hell are we going to use it? And the only scenario I can think of is if you got pounded, like what happened to us from the end of, like from Christmas until, say, halfway through March. If that happened Halloween to the end of the year, you may have a little overrun on overtime in there, but once you get past the first of the year into the next year's money, and you have the rest of the year to make up for whatever you had to spend at the front. And that's been more of my philosophy. I've never been a big fan of accessing this money. It can't be replaced. If we did replace it, it wouldn't be protected like it is now. So that's, I guess, my question for the purpose of buying a snowplow truck and utilizing this grant. What I'm trying to gauge your guys' comfort level with spending. It'd be about $117,000 minus 35% of that, so about 40. So you're looking at about $68,000 probably is what the truck would cost us. Last one we got, I think, was $117,000. I have to find out if the box is included, or are we just talking cab and chassis. You know, there's some variable things like that.
So is this grant got an expiration date on it?
It's the 12th of September is when your application would need to be, and that's why I'm here talking about it now. It just, there's a timeline in here, and I didn't print out all this stuff and kill 9 trees, but if you go to the DENR website, there's a thing on there, the South Dakota DENR website, they'll tell you about it. September 13th is when the deadline is for the applications to be in. And then 16th through the, September, October, they evaluate them. October 8th, they will post when or who got a grant. And then you spend the rest of the year ordering your trucks and doing the paperwork and doing whatever you got to do for the program. With a December of 2020 is the deadline for everything to be submitted. Your truck would be delivered and you submit everything to the DNR. So that's December of next year. So we're talking about.
There'd be a possibility that a truck could be bought off of another bid, a state bid, or?
Yeah, like if we were doing this right now, Dennis, just completely to tell you what I would be asking you guys to do would be, we would buy a tandem off the same bid. We still have a truck that hasn't been delivered yet that we bought last year, and it's had 9-month lead time. It's in town, but it just hasn't been delivered here yet, that we bought last year. Or we ordered last year. It'll be the exact same truck. There's a bid in place, so we wouldn't bid it. And then, like I said, it was $117,000, I think. So
just say that it'd be somewhere between $65,000 and $85,000 that
right.
you would be taking out of the snow removal fund.
Right.
And I caught something that you said about it not being able to be replenished. What?
You can replenish it, but then you guys can take it like from where?
It's not restricted.
Right. Well, you'd replenish it out of the budget.
Right.
That's what I'd say. I would
Yeah.
just pay it back in the budget.
Is there anything in state law that says that there's a limit or an amount that the county can have in a snow removal fund? I wonder.
I'd have to look specifically for snow removal,
Oh,
if there's a limit.
but, I mean,
I'll just tell you what happened, you know, the county budget in 2000 was way less than it is now. And there was $600 and some thousand in that fund. And then we spent like $180,000 to buy a snow blower. And ever since then, it's been $423. And I don't even know if the interest goes in there. I don't think that balance has changed at all, right?
I don't think it
I
has.
don't think so. I can look.
So
I guess I'm certainly not, I think it's great, but I don't think we want to deplete the snow removal fund either, so that we wouldn't have that emergency deal there, I wouldn't think.
It'd still leave about 350 ballpark in there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Between 340 and 350. And we haven't
Well,
utilized it for the next
You
2
take
years.
advantage of somebody paying 35% of your truck. The other thing is do we have something that we can destroy to meet this? I would think we probably would, but
Well, that's the question I have to ask them. We have, that old International yard truck. We paid $2,500 for it 15, 18 years ago, and we use it around the yard. And it's actually, we should let that run and send them a video, because that is killing the ozone layer. That truck alone is probably responsible for it. So that's one, but at the same time, there is gonna be an evaluation process of the grants, and if I was doing that, I would be like, okay, what are you getting rid of, and this is what you're getting, you know, so, but there's that one. Also, I would be happy to go back and look at the history of what a running tandem has sold for at the county surplus sale. We're not losing a heck of a lot between the scrap value of it and, you know what I mean? I think the last running dump truck we sold went for about $1,100. So, even if we actually have to disable something that's running, it's a little bit against our philosophy, I understand that, but, you know, it's a government program, so you gotta do it.
Well, it looks like there's a ways to go on it yet, and taking money out of the snow fund is one way of doing it, or, you know, out of capital, depending on the circumstances. So I think it's good and interesting, and, you know, there's more work to be done on trying to figure out what would potentially qualify and what fits, and that'll continue to evolve.
To your point, equipment isn't gonna be a priority until you guys put back about $3.3 million back into the budget before I'm not spending any money on equipment going forward.
Unless you have a situation where you get a piece of equipment that just turns critical and it's not worth fixing, and we'll see.
I just don't think it's ever gonna be more important than the roads, is what I'm saying.
Well, I think this is a program worth pursuing, at least getting the necessary paperwork in by the deadline.
Okay.
I feel.
And that was my question. I didn't want to start doing
I would
another
agree. I
thing.
mean, we can go down that road, and I mean, if everything's approved, we don't have to accept it. I mean, if we get to a point where, in November, say we find out that, yeah, this is what they're gonna award, this is what the truck costs, we don't necessarily have to go through with
No.
Because right now, that money is restricted based on the way it was set up originally. We can't just use it for anything, like it would be going forward if we added to it, right?
Right.
Go for it.
I'm not in favor of adding to it if it's not restricted.
Exactly.
Go for it, there's no point.
I would make a motion that we pursue the Volkswagen grant.
Okay.
Do you need a motion? I think it's
Not really.
just
Just tell me,
informational at
yeah.
this point.
I just wanted,
For me.
I didn't want to waste a bunch of time and have you guys go for it, no.
After the winter we had, are you happy with, like, the snow plows we have? Are we good, like, blowers and stuff like that?
No, we
I know-
need a snow blower. We
Should
already
we-
bought.
Should we be
that
looking
was
at
my
getting one of
point,
those
yeah.
too?
Yeah,
Or
we
not
should.
right now?
That's gonna take the whole rest of the snow removal fund.
But I mean, we were getting calls in March,
Oh, I
and,
know,
you know, we
yeah.
were talking about load limits coming off, people weren't able to
Well-
get through some of the roads yet, so that's why I was just, and I know you guys were doing your best, but it
we-
just iced over.
We bought 4 plows. Now, when I say that, that's the plow, the thing that you hook on the front of the truck. And we bought 4 because we absolutely, I mean, we welded and re-welded and re-welded, and it was getting to the point of being a safety issue, so we had to replace some of them. to be quite honest and 100% opposite of what Dennis just said, this was my first baby step. I was gonna come in and spend all of the snow money to update the equipment, because I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible, and after we set my 5-year plan date, we'll have a very nice 5-year plan meeting, because it's that map right there with $18 million worth of work removed from it. No new work is going in. It's all coming out. So, I mean, equipment is so far down the priority list going forward that we'll just beg, borrow, and steal from the other counties and use up all of our stuff. But
Well, I tell you,
we got a long ways to go before I think that it's more important than the roads.
anybody that's involved in agriculture today knows what it costs to replace equipment and how far you get yourself back in a corner to replace that equipment is incredible. And so,
Right. Well, and I know, and I
gotta
don't...
be careful.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be careful because I'll make sure I don't get too surly today while I'm in here and going through what we have left to do.
So we're not helping any.
No, but it's all right.
That's the
Everything's
point
cool.
I was trying to
Well,
make.
with a
right there.
blower, it's tough because you don't have a crystal ball. You may buy a
Right.
brand new one and it sits there idle for the next 4 seasons.
And that's exactly what happened to the last one. And guess what? We were very happy we had it last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, it's not, you don't use it every day. I mean, it sits there.
Right. It's like a fire engine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
emergency.
Didn't need it the last 4 years. and
No.
then boom.
So, okay.
Keep juggling.
Oh, here. Any
good news?
I actually gave you a handout. There's a little bit of good news, kind of sideways good news, I
I
guess.
think we can get here.
This is
Why is it always gotta be sideways with you?
It is because it's all my life is.
Hey, consistent.
Sideways.
He's a
circular.
highway superintendent.
This is what we do.
Thanks.
You bet. You want to see? Can you guys share? I'll give you a copy when I get done. Okay, this is like the 2 weeks from now report. Because as I'm writing this stuff down, it's all happening in the next week or two. But the summer's really backloaded again like last year. I hate it, but it's just kind of how things have worked out.
Started late.
Yep. So just going at the top there, these aren't in any kind of priority, any kind of anything. It's just me writing down what we have. So the striping and the stop signs, we ordered those last Monday. I talked to the guy. We paid an extra $500 to get them rushed here. And as soon as they have them, they're going to come in and install them. They're Dakota Traffic Services. They're professionals, so I'm going to have them do it. And then we'll, I was going to have them hook back up to the electricity. The cost, and not so much the operating cost isn't so huge, but the cost of the installation and some other things. So we might switch those to all solar. Hopefully they'll perform better. We kind of had some problems with those other ones we had that were solar, and I was telling the sign guy, he was very surprised that I wanted to hardwire them in. I said, but dang them, the solar ones takes about 12 seconds before I get a phone call after one of those quits flashing, so we're going to weigh that out. But at any rate, we'll have flashing lights at that intersection. We'll get them turned around. It'll be both at 13 and 10, and then also up at 11 and 10. That one's not quite as...
Will you notify the paper and
Yep.
the news media, because that'll be an education for people that have traveled that road all these years and all of a sudden it's been changed. It'll be...
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Old habits are hard.
Well, I had a phone call from a guy who lives on the northwest corner of that intersection, and he would like to see the speed limit reduced to 45 miles an hour.
I'm all for it. That's up to you guys. I'm 0 for 8 with this commission. I'm getting speed limit. So I don't bring them anymore. But
Well,
if
if
the
you want to
public-
raise them.
Yeah. If the public, no, but seriously, if the public ever comes to me, I'd say you'll have to take that directly to the commission. I won't take it anymore because I'm ineffective on getting speed limits lower.
And I think probably one of the biggest oppositions I'll have is my wife, because she doesn't like those lowering speed limits. She likes them going up.
I love your wife.
Look at your statistics
Great
about
lady.
that.
Well, don't let them get in the way. Don't let facts get in the
Don't
way.
let facts confuse you. So anyway, and then they'll do the striping on those 2 miles, and then we're also going to put a double stripe going on Road 14 north of Prairiewood Corner, north of the golf course. Just that first mile where all those houses are.
Yep.
with, I don't know if it was a reaction to looky-loos or what happened, but I sure got between people, stuff growing up in that ditch, like the willows and stuff beside people's driveways coming through the berm along there. We just had a lot of real odd comments about the traffic there, and I think it's a good idea to double stripe it since we got all those approaches coming in there, so.
We should put more approaches in there.
Yeah, there's plenty of room on the east side yet. That's hardly even developed.
Let's do that.
Cut the dike down some more.
There we go. Okay, are we good with that one?
No.
Yeah,
No,
we're great.
Is that ambiguous enough?
No, that's good.
Cold in place recycle project on County 13 starts September 9th. The actual cold in place part of that should only take a week. Now there's a couple short areas they'll be cement treating, so that might happen like a little bit before or a little bit after that September 9th date, but it won't be a big obstruction to anything. It's just a different crew comes in and treats a couple areas, and then they do the whole thing with the cold in place train. That one I'm not going to set up a sign a detour. There's going to be flaggers in a pilot car, and I know that isn't going to solve all the problems. We're still going to catch hell from Aberdeen and Lincoln Townships for traffic, but
They want it fixed.
yeah, flaggers and pilot cars is about the best we can do.
That's not cheap either.
No. DOT paving on County Road 9, that project is going to start the second week of September, which is about the 9th, I think, or the weekend after. They'll pave, it gets the equivalent of that 10 miles is going to get about 5 miles of asphalt and then some other dig outs and some repairs. And then they'll be basically in charge of maintaining that. We'll have to maintain it the rest of this year, but once the project starts next year, then they'll have to maintain it.
The detour off 10?
Yep, that'll be the detour for the bridges on 10.
How much pavement are you going to put down? How many miles?
It's the equivalent of about 5 miles. It's in like a 1.5 piece, and then a half-mile piece, and a quarter mile, and then there's some dig outs they'll be doing, and I think it should be okay.
When does the state take that over? In the spring when they...
Once the project, yeah, then they'll be in charge of the maintenance and everything on it. We've even done those before where we patch them and then bill the state back sometimes, if they can't get out there quick enough. I think that happened on over at the golf course road at Grove.
So then you can supplement your budget by doing some outside work?
Yeah.
Do it again.
Put an administrative fee on it.
Yeah. And then, okay, oh yeah, so then once Leans is doing that, and once they get done with that, they'll come back and they're gonna do 14W. That'll end up getting done a little later in the year than I wanted, but that's okay. We gotta go do a little grade adjustment on that. That's the one going from the old highway out to 281. West Bridge at Richmond, I was actually talking to him while I was driving down here. And one of their guys I had to find him a camping spot in Groton, so I know they're coming. They're going to start on that next week on the West Bridge. That's probably going to be about 4 to 6 weeks. I forgot that's got a poured concrete deck on it. So they'll pour the deck, and while that's curing, they'll go over and start on the one on the Richmond Road right after it.
13.
Yeah, which is kind of good because we'll get the road project done, and then they'll come in and do the bridge, and then the county will go out and pave the whole thing again, a real thin lift. I was putting some numbers to it. A double chip seal and a 1-inch thin lift overlay are $20,000 difference in price. So we're just going to go out with our paver and just put a little 1-inch overlay on it, which was something I actually learned. I was never used to be a fan of a 1-inch overlay, but I went to at the NACE conference last year. There's a gal that did a presentation on very thin overlay lifts, and you just cut your rock in half. You wouldn't want to do this in an area where you got a whole bunch of egg traffic, and you wouldn't build a 4-inch section out of this stuff. But the performance of a 1-inch lift with half-inch rock in it, statistically, is pretty amazing from the presentation I saw. So I figured it's only $20,000 more than a double chip seal, which is what we would have done in this, to cover up this process. So being that we got the new paver and it seems to be working good, and
I got a solid base and you can lay it down, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. that's kind of the point of the cold in place, because there's a lot of, man, there's like 6-8 inches of asphalt on that whole road. It'll take that, straighten it out, lay it down, and then we'll come along afterwards and put 1 inch on top of it. And
It'll provide some consistency. That's the problem right now, is it's not consistent.
Yep. So,
Wayne and I probably shouldn't vote on this project.
too late.
We're not voting. He's just doing it.
Wayne should vote to not do
Then
it.
you should probably move it to the bottom.
Yeah.
He said they're not in
The
order.
first thing I said was, this is not in any, here, we'll turn it upside down and we'll go from the top then.
Get it backwards.
West Bridge. Okay, Bridge 57 southeast of Warner, Bridge 243 west of Claremont. These guys are gonna be casualty of this year. These two bridges are right here and right there. Now, we've got about 180,000 into this one already. It's in the backyard at our shop. And this one's at the factory. So what I'm hoping to do is, because it's still in the budget for this year, is I'm going to pay for as much of these bridges as we can. And then I'll see how I can fit them into 20 or 2021. But the cost of taking them from this point to completion is not the full cost of a bridge, because I think we paid for part of that one last year even, and some more of it this year, and this one will come out this year too. So basically we'll be paying for the install and a little bit of abutment work, but the actual structures we will have already paid for. I'm just going to see what we find, where we end up in the end for next year's budget, to decide if we want to try to do both of them next year, or do 20 and then 21, or do them both in 20.
So the material's delivered, they're just not installed.
Right.
Okay.
Who installs those? Or-
All the way. They're the same ones that are doing the West Bridge and the one at Richmond.
Gotcha.
The Hall Bridge is about 2 weeks behind schedule. They hit a unbelievably huge boulder. They estimated it, I'm not sure how they did it, if they did count on the radar, but they thought it was 97,000 ton boulder that's sitting right under the bridge. And
That sounds like a rock crossing to me.
well, yeah, a big one. Dwayne and I went up there one day when they were driving pile, and there was something funky about the way that was looking, and I didn't think much about it. But what was happening is they hit resistance. Normally you drive 40, 50. I've been on a project, they drove 180 feet down and still didn't hit resistance driving pile. And they hit it at like 12 feet. They didn't get one sticking, and that's what we were watching that day, because they were hitting that hammer and everything was kicking back so hard that it didn't look right. But usually when you hit resistance, you've only got this much of the piling sticking up, and they had like the whole dang stick up there. So what happened is there was a little bit of a redesign, and it just pushed them back. So what you ended up putting like a spread footing in there, more so than the piling going all the way down. They built the spread footing in there to accommodate for the lack of depth, to have something to set the piling on. You know, I'm stupid. I'm like, yeah, big ass rock, just set them on the rock. Whatever. I don't know, like I said, the east side's pretty much done. They still have to put the cap on top of the pier, but they are taking their stuff apart and moving over to the west side. So there's progress, but it's not the fastest moving job I've ever seen. It looks to me like they got a lot to do yet, but I talked to the guy from the DOT yesterday, and he said, based on their schedule, they're about 2 weeks behind is all, so take their word for it. County 13, Prairie Wood Road. Okay, we stopped at Dakota Street because I didn't have a good answer for the Camino Real people and Prairie Wood people who were threatening some legal action if we flooded them for raising the road.
We flooded them?
No, if we flooded them. Like, if we raised the road up
As a result of it.
1,600. Well, so I didn't have a good answer, so we stopped. We were going to go out and basically we have to keep the elevation the same at the culverts that are just on the east side of Camino Royale. We replaced the culverts this spring because they failed during the flood. So you can't raise the road elevation over the top of those pipes. So what I was originally going to do is we were going to go down even deeper, put in some some GeoGrid, which is what we used at the school, and it seems to have worked, which would gives you some gravel equivalency in there without having to raise the road up. It wasn't going to be a quick thing, so I just said pave it to here, I'll figure out the rest of the year. In the meantime, went over to Prairiewood, had a similar conversation with some folks over there, and so I just kind of said, well, this is going to take a little more thinking, and so I stopped. Well, then the DOT called me the other day and wanted to use it as a truck detour, and they will pay to pave the rest of it. They will pave to lower the road and mill it back and basically pay for all the rest of using it. And then on 14, there's about about 3/4 of a mile on Road 14 that they'll upgrade for us as well. Mill it and pave it back. So
it was beneficial to wait.
Well, I think it was extremely beneficial. We'll have to bring an agreement, and I'm moving forward without having talked to you guys about this till now, under the assumption that we would do that. Now, I'll have to bring an agreement, you guys will have to bless it, because I'm sure you'll have some other folks that won't think it's quite so awesome, but you're talking 1, 2, 3 times, it's like $450,000, you know. We get excited about $18,000 for the racetrack, and we can rent that road out for $450,000, so.
Just almost seems to me like that should be taken over by the state.
Yeah. Did you read my article in the County Comment?
No.
Yeah, you should.
I read it.
And we are blessed to have 3 crossings right there, too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, on a side note, I've been waiting for the 7:50 a.m. train to come across Roosevelt and 8th Avenue, and I got to experience it. And I was running late, so I got to sit right there. And, yep, and I have to admit, it was nowhere near the goat rope. Once the train cleared, I would have expected it to be bigger chaos up there. And I was surprised that it wasn't.
You're talking on 13.
Well, I'm saying on 8th Avenue and Roosevelt.
The intersection with the crossing.
Where that is. And the one thing that was funky, though, if the train's moving too slow, it releases the northbound traffic. So if the train's going north, and you're coming up Roosevelt, so the north-south traffic will get released first, because the train's still blocking 8th Avenue, right? So if you're going to make a right turn onto 8th Avenue, now fortunately I was sitting there,
behind you.
Yeah, and so I was sitting there and I'm like, damn it, I'm the first guy that wants to make a right turn.
You're going to be...
Yeah, I'm going to be the one that's holding everybody up, and just cleared just in time, and then the light turns red again, so I was safe. I got to sit there and wait for it. But that actually, for being the first time I'd seen that, I was really surprised.
Over the shoulder, you know.
Yeah. So, anyway.
And everybody's taking a lot of move.
So I will be, when they finalize that agreement, I spent some time with the DOT out looking at that road the other day.
That's good news.
So I think it's
good news.
I think there's some value in there. And the reality of that is, a lot of those trucks are already, if you know your way around, a lot of those guys are coming into town, they're going up and cutting across there anyway, instead of going down 6th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the bottom, and it's at the bottom, Rachel, because it's the least important thing, the
Okay.
county forces. But the things that we'll be doing with our county forces yet are, we have to finish sealing on Road 23. We'll be doing that hopefully tomorrow and Thursday. There's a high line. I really have to start paying more attention. We okay those right-of-ways, and then we go out there to chip seal, and I'm like, who the hell let these guys come out here when I want to chip seal? They're out there working on the high line, so we had to wait for them.
That was you.
Yeah, I know. I figured that out, Dwayne, after a while. And then there's 2.5 miles over there by Road 18 that we milled up earlier this year. That was sort of, you know, that whole thing was going to be a cold-in place, and then it didn't work out, so we kind of just picked the part in there that needed the most help, and we milled that up and stabilized it. Now we'll go back down with our own people and pave that back and get the chip sealing done this week. I think next week we'll probably be doing that. And then when it's working on the flood stuff, I got it signed up with FEMA. We're all set up online thanks to the emergency management. Scott and Patty did a good job, because I didn't have to do too much. I just had to log on and I'm in. Now they just have to assign us somebody that's going to be our representative person. And
Because that's a seamless process.
yeah. You pull up their website and there's all this, you know, there's we're not the only emergency.
I've seen it,
You see
yeah.
that? Holy cow,
Yeah.
it can't compete with a hurricane. Like trying to tell a story of misery after the museum, it's impossible. So,
Go ahead.
and then just the ER flooding, the other stuff. We still have 2 roads underwater, 16B below the Scandinavian Church and 25 down the south end of the county. Those 2 are still underwater. Hopefully we'll, I don't know, get in there by freeze up, maybe. I don't know. So, okay.
So it's a moving target, just like South Arlington.
So do we want,
God, that's a bad one.
should we really stir Dirk up here this morning, or should we let him rest?
You can stir me up. You're not gonna hurt me.
The racetrack contract.
I just think it have nothing to do with the highway department. No blade, no nothing. Just let them do their thing. And the other thing, this has nothing to do with me. I would suggest that you have some kind of evaluation process for your deliverable good, per se. The condition you give the track to them in. You have to have a conversation about that, whether it is entirely their responsibility taking it from where it is today, or where, you know what I mean? Or is the county gonna deliver it to them at a certain
Because that
standard?
is gonna come up. That's gonna be an issue, there's no question, it is every time.
That's usually the vague, that is the one thing that isn't well delineated. You know, the promoter comes in and he goes out and he goes, well, Jesus, you ought to do this, this, and this. Now, qualify it, we'll straighten out whatever, a road into the stage and that kind of thing. I mean, we got an obligation, the county, to put that at least back to being clay and whatnot. But I do think you should do some kind of process to say, okay, this is what you're paying for, here it is, because that one year you got $8,000 from them and we spend another $6,000 hauling clay in there. And I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So those are my 2 comments. That didn't even get me wound up.
Thank you. I wanted to give you the opportunity.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Question, Rachel?
Can you talk a little bit about where Brown County 13 meets 37 north of Groton? Maybe you had the same call I did, but who's responsible on those intersections of widening, or is it the county or the state?
That one would be, well, we...
Conversation.
Yeah, but, I mean, by the letter of the law, we don't work in other people's right-of-ways. However, the state's prioritization of a county approach is not very high. Matter of fact, our area and region, that relationship varies between the different DOT regions. And a lot of it has to do with the relationship between the county and the DOT at each spot. So depending on, are you talking they just want to widen it out?
Yeah.
You do like Scott Hanlon and you just go fill in the ditch along 37 at Burden, and then I drove by, I go, did you get permission to do that? Oh, this is Burden, you know, so. But nobody said anything and it looks nice, so I guess there's nothing wrong with it. But, I mean, we can start the conversation. If you were gonna ask me from scratch, I go, that's a DOT thing, because the DOT will either tell you, well, we wouldn't need that approach there if you didn't have a road. That's what you get sometimes. Or, yeah, we can do that. Are they talking just widening it out?
For equipment.
I'm just asking.
Well, Jeff, looks like you've got a lot of DOT stuff going on the next 18 months, so maybe just mention it to them, see what they think.
Did you read my article? You know why the DOT's got all the money? Did everybody figure that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the guy gonna do about that? Very little.
Not much you can do.
I tell you what, yeah, and you all can call me about that later, because we are putting a meeting together that I'm not prepared to talk about right now with everybody in the newspaper and stuff here, but meeting with some legislators. They've got some questions about the current distribution formula of license plates and stuff. And outside of the fact that that hasn't been changed in 34 years, I'm not super excited, and a few of us that have been around a little bit aren't in a big yank to change it. But as you guys are probably well aware, at least 2 of you, that the legislature knows way more about stuff than we do. And so they're looking to try a few of the East River counties that have an interstate and the Big Sioux River running through them seem to be getting very interested in putting square feet of bridge deck as criteria, population, surface area bridges, surfacing of the roads. Right now, you just have roads. They don't differentiate between how much asphalt you have and how much gravel you have. So they want to add some specificity to the evaluation process, and if you just take all the data I just said and start crossing the boxes out, you'll figure out which county is really pushing for this. It's one that doesn't really need to be, but, so...
They got more wheel tax than they'll underspend.
So
They
we'll
won't use any property tax money to fund their highway department.
Right. I asked that question at a meeting one time, and everybody looked at me like, I was trying to gauge, the point was the differences in people's perception from county to county to county. Why can Spring County have 67 posted bridges, and we end up with 2 on our system, and people raise holy hell about them? Why is that? And I was trying to figure that out. So I was trying to figure out, okay, so are the counties, yeah, you can line all the budgets up, but that really doesn't tell you anything. You gotta see, like, what percentage of property tax is going in there, or what percentage of the total expenditures for that county is dedicated to the highway department. You know, those kind of factors would give you a better metric as to how they're really committed to it, you know. So that was sort of my question, and holy crap, was that the bad...
So you're going to bring facts in again.
Yeah, you know, there's four counties didn't understand the question because they don't get it, you know. Hughes County, well, geez, until our jail's paid for, we're never going to get any property tax. So they just run off their license plates and port of entry and their STIP money and...
Just say we can't do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them like that.
I know. So, anyway, boy, I'm glad the sheriff's not after me because he'd be yelling that I ran him over. But
Erica might.
Erica's okay.
Anything else for dirt?
Thank you.
Not today.
Okay.
He doesn't get his paycheck.
Did you guys see my email? I'm gonna be gone a little bit.
Oh,
Saw
yeah.
that. Did catch it. Okay, well, just so you know.
Have a good one.
I will. I think that was a water truck. I don't think it was anything. I don't think it was anything
Next
bad.
item on the agenda, Judy Dosh, Building Superintendent.
Yep.
I'll call you later to talk about what I want to talk about yesterday. I was mowing when you called.
Oh, I didn't know what else.
Nothing to say. Just a couple questions.
We're running late, Judy, but,
She knows.
We are.
Yeah, before Russ.
Good morning.
Morning, Judy. Got a couple projects you want to discuss with us.
Yes, I was gonna get back with the welfare, so I know what I need to do on that.
Pardon me?
On the welfare, my voice is,
Oh.
with my allergies.
Now I got something.
What I did, is I was asked to get a cost of taking that front part of Roxy's office and putting a wall through, what that would cost. I did the bare bones. It's gonna have to take 8 feet, which, comes like 2 blocks from that one door that goes into that hallway in her office. So for just the wall and cutting the opening, that's $3,675.
Now, is the front door removed? Is
No,
that-
I'm just going to take the, arm off, and then the door will open up like
And that'll pass for handicap accessible?
Does that include everything, the glass?
No, so then what I did is, I called House of Glass and I just asked for, I have an old glass, I took it out of when they remodeled the jail. So I had them come over and look to see if it was the Lexan like we wanted and all that kind of stuff, and if we could use it. And so, yeah, actually yesterday I tore it out of its frame. And so all I would do is I would just take this piece of Lexan, and we need to put those spacers in it to hold it away from so the sound goes around it. So then just for them to put that in for me and give me a counter, that cost was $1,256.43, and then she would have a
Secured facility
Secured.
with glass, and we still have our conference room down there, so we still need it used by everybody. So under 5,000.
Say 1365?
12
1265.
1256.43.
Okay.
$4,800, 49.
49 out of 5,000.
Yep.
And I actually did the doors, some of the doors of the 36 inches, which they need to be. The problem in that area is the hallway. The hallway is so narrow. So
can't
that's
go
why
through
we
that
did
way.
that. That's why we did the
Yeah.
conference room the way we did it. So. And then just so that you guys know, what I did is I also checked the HR's door. Her door's okay. This door's not.
This way though?
Gary's door.
Oh.
Or used to be Gary's door.
For handicap?
That's fine.
Yeah. No, I just wanted you guys to be aware, so.
Yep.
When she brings
That's what I asked, which doors are...
Yep, yep.
All
How about
right.
the door between them?
Yes, because we had put that in when we put that wall in. So that's a 36-inch door.
So can your budget handle this $5,000?
Pick one.
We'll work on it. So, yep. So that's, I mean, I just need you guys to tell me that, okay, that's what we're going to do, and I can proceed.
My only question, if this is the permanent answer, so we're in essence saying then that Roxy won't have a secretary. And if that's the way it's gonna be, that's great. Let's do it and get it done. But if we find out in 6 months, I need somebody to take the calls and to be in here, then we're gonna reconfigure this whole thing.
That's why she's got that one office that she has. The next office beside her is gonna have a desk in it too, because I had planned on that room being for the scanner and that if somebody comes to do some scanning. So there would be another office, and then we still have that other little area where I have all her files. If she has help and somebody coming in to scan, if, you know, Chris can scan for maybe, you know, the welfare, she can get kind of rid of those records because she doesn't need to keep all them. So we actually have another office in the same location that would become available to use.
So there is enough flexibility to accommodate that.
Yeah, so there's actually another room that if she needs to have a person come and scanning, that there is an office for that person.
Okay.
So down the road, if she needs a secretary and, you know, however you move whatever, you know, so.
The issue, I believe, up here, if she uses that, then you've got voter problems, right?
Well, that we just have to find a solution for that.
Then we gotta find a solution. It just
We
keeps
put
going
the-
from one to one
we
to
put
one to
the
one.
in the back like they did before.
Well, we would want a place like for private accessible voting if somebody brings a translator or needs help filling in the bubbles for any reason. They would like some privacy so people can't see and hear was kind of the intention of that room. But what I was really going for is negotiating, hiring out absentee with the availability of the secretary's hours. If we took on the secretary duties and had her in there. That's the ultimate deal here. But.
Because how much is it roughly? to
Oh,
hire that?
I would, real rough numbers, and we'd start with maybe hiring it out just 2 weeks versus the full 46 days. 10,000-15,000 for an election year. Real rough numbers.
But then you've got to realize that where does she take her people, in here, where does she take her people to talk with them privately, because you can't have them standing outside in the hallway working on medical stuff.
Yeah.
Public accessibility is
It
going
would
to
be
be a
here,
problem that way.
in this room.
Yeah, well then,
You're moving stuff around.
And I know she's not
And
as
then-
comfortable with
yeah.
the window versus the having the distance.
Well, I hate to see the county spend money on a little cubicle with a glass in it, and then if it doesn't, I mean, how are you gonna make the decision that it's actually gonna work or last, or, spend the money and then for whatever reason, next year, don't need it, or whatever, that's, how do you get to the bottom of that?
I guess the only thing is, you're $4,900, you do have an option to put a secretary down at their other offices just off that room to the south. I mean, there's a lot of variance on the south side of that office. It's not like that's a locked-in space. I mean, there's, 4 or 5 other offices just south of that with a hallway through?
yeah, well, Chris is taking that one,
Okay, he's
Big one.
picked this up.
yep, picked his up.
And there won't be a door, so she'll have to come in through the conference room or through the...
Conference room, if somebody's in the conference room, she'll have to come in through like the 911 area. Because you didn't want me to put another doorway
No.
in, so, I mean, that's gonna just add another.
Well, it's like I
Couple
said,
$1,000.
it's bare bones.
Yep.
She's
Yep.
protected, just like everybody else in the courtroom is, courthouse is. Everybody has glass between them. all the buildings. I guess.
For the commissioners.
Yeah,
We're expendable. There's no other unseen costs, we don't need any intercoms, there's no fobs that need, I mean, this is it, and then we're good, right?
In just doing that area? Oh, I might have to, it's just like doing a light switch or something like that, because I didn't have any electrical or anything in, so no, I mean, it's not gonna be that much more.
That brings
more
up a good
security
question,
doors.
No, we're
whether
not
or not it
requesting
needs to
any
be
more.
fobbed or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there'll be no door on there.
There's no door on there.
They'll walk out of the hallway
You'll just
directly in
open
against
up
the
the one that's
glass.
currently
Yeah, yeah.
fobbed,
Yeah.
and leave it open.
Yep. And the door that I have downstairs now that goes in the conference room, that's gonna be fobbed. Paul hasn't got that, you know.
So you just swap those, because we already have the stuff down there for the one, it just needs to change doors.
Well, it's just like, it's just a matter of, okay, we're trying to take all the keys, and now I'm giving them keys back. You know, that's the only thing, so, it's like,
Keys for what?
keys, if I take the, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be locked there, but, if I would take the fob off of that one door and move it to the new door, then the other door is keyed, so then she'd have to have a key to unlock it.
But why
to
does
open
that
it up
have to be
in the
locked?
morning. I mean, that's your guys' call.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just for the public to come in and we
Yep.
can close it if they need private.
Right.
I guess that seems like an economical fix, so maybe, I guess that's just my thoughts, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but.
But the cost is tearing it out and replacing it into the other door. And that would be a Paul issue, or Paul question.
Do it.
Sounds like a solution.
Yep.
I think go with the $4,900 or $4,800 and set it up that way. We've got options down the road with other offices on the south side of it, so.
And then is it easy once she's in there without a secretary to forward her calls to somebody else if
It's
she's
just a flip
gone?
of the switch.
Yeah, it's a flip the switch, yep.
Sounds good.
All right. Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Then you got Dakota Prairie Museum LED
I
lighting
do.
upgrade.
Yep. I had put 15,000 in my budget for this year to do some can lighting over there, track lighting. We got a quote, they're gonna do the education room, the children's exhibit, the wildlife gallery, and the telephone exhibit room. And I got two quotes. One from Jason's for $14,285.74. And one is from Daily Electrics for $14,387.07.
Identical services.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty comparable.
Same,
Yeah.
same thing.
Is there a time factor that's involved with this? I mean, is one...
Well, it has to be done
Is
this
one
year,
able to
because it's
do
in
it sooner than the other as far as which you decide?
No, they both be able to get it in.
Make a motion to approve the low bid, I believe it was Jason.
Jason's Electric, yep, for
$100, so.
for $14,285.74.
Second.
Motion by Sutton, second by Kempley to approve the electrical upgrading at the Dakota Prairie Museum to Jason's for $14,285, which is the low bid. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then, can I just talk about another, the tree?
No, you only had two things on the agenda.
I know, and I
No,
didn't.
That's all right.
Anyway, I had asked the three quotes for removing the trees. And, I just finally got a hold of the last two of them, and they, because they hadn't sent me a quote, and, you know, I had waited since the 3rd of October, or 3rd of August, when they had came to look at them and stuff. So they told me this morning that they have no time to work these trees in, and it's working on the weekends and all that kind of stuff. So they're not interested, but I did get one quote from, and for the price wise, I only really need one, but I got it from Smart Choice, and to remove the trees and the junipers along the front of the courthouse was for $1,900. So I was just gonna let you know that I was going to,
Don't even sound too bad.
no, accept this one and go ahead and get it done.
So that's two trees, right? You're taking two trees out.
Two trees and the junipers along the front, and then next year I want to do some different landscaping up there. And, I mean, we didn't visit, but, maybe not even put a tree back in. So,
Okay.
just to see how we,
Sounds good?
Okay.
Go for it.
I will.
Thanks, Jude. Thank you. See you then.
Good day. That takes care of the agenda items.
Yeah, we can finish up the packet if you want.
Good. I guess we still got a forum. We left off with the auditor's report.
Yeah, auditor's report of accounts.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Kempley, second by Weiss, to approve the auditor's report of accounts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Leases.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Weiss, second by Kempley, to approve the leases. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Claim assignment.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kempley, to approve the claim assignment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Authorize advertising and public hearing for the special revenue fund for the JDAI grant.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Weiss, to set the hearing and authorize advertise for the special revenue fund for the JDAI grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
And just
carries.
another note on that, when we get into our public hearing for the 2020 budget, we'll need a motion to add that to the budget, since we published the provisional without it. Set hearing date and authorize advertising, the rezone ordinances, the ordinance 145, 146, and 147.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kempley, to set the hearing date for rezone ordinances 145, 146, and 147. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Plat.
I didn't see the plats in there, I don't know what they were.
Yep, I just copied the agenda from Planning and Zoning Board
Oh,
that
I
had
see.
the plats listed, and then we had the full plats here.
Oh, okay.
Is there some question on this one currently?
The Prairie Hill Farm. Do they need to be tweaked, Scott? For their addressing for 911.
I made some copies here, I'll explain.
And then the dedicated access for these two lots?
I just made 3 copies for you guys to share. If you look at the first page of the plat, the second page, the illustration shows 126th Street coming on a section line, curves up, and then goes into the farmyard, matching what the plat has. So the way the GIS department has 126th Street shown is how I addressed the parcels on the plat. And I got an email yesterday. That's the very last page. I just inserted it on your last page from the GIS department. The second paragraph regarding addresses of lot 1 and 3. He's asking me and the surveyor to research this for an easement, and we don't believe that needs to be done, and the reason is the 106th Street that curves around the slough, that's been there for close to 70 years, and it's shown on an old plat book. The person that had this farm was a Bohling, B-O-H-L-I-N-G, and owned both quarters back in, I think, the 50s. And that access was going to the farm. And as the years go by and that farm has been sold, I think there's 4 different buyers over the years, maybe 5, that access coming around that slough continued. So with that being said, that access easement has already been defined over the years. So once I was notified on this email about the addressing complaint from the GIS department, I questioned the road, and he said he doesn't think he has anything that shows that that road continues up to the house. Well, in that case, you'd have to back that 106th Street off back to the section line of 398th Avenue. So then, the following page, that's the new plat, and, well, you'll see the colored map with the addressing that I put on it. You guys all have that handy. So then 126th Street being established will curve and come up to the section line, and then from that section line you have a statutory 66-foot right-of-way, and utilizing that you can enter both property, all 3 properties from that right-of-way. So then I just addressed them accordingly, rather than having them addressed further into that yard. When I'm doing my addressing, I have to assume that if it's drawn that way on the GIS, that's the road. So that's how I normally address. The surveyor, Randy Bacon, does not believe that we need to go back to this landowner here on the west side and open a can of worms and talk about putting a right-of-way established in there. When it's been like that for that many years, it's already established.
So when a dispatcher gets that address, will they have issues getting to it, or everything's good to go? Is the
Well,
quickest route?
126th Street goes right up to that section line.
Okay, but that's Township Road, and that's an established right-of-way, but it's not a recorded easement, right? Is that what we're looking at?
On that curve,
Right.
that's not a recorded easement, no.
At this point, when it comes to light, there's no question that it's been established, but we should probably
It's
get it recorded then, so.
It's a gravel road that goes all the way through for
The
all
town-
these years to that farm.
Do we know, does the township maintain that, or the landowner maintain that, or?
That curved part, I don't know.
These addresses established in 19, is that what the addresses were assigned?
Yeah.
I believe that's the township responsibility, I was told. But I could be wrong.
In these cases, from a practical standpoint, sometimes the landowner does it, which is fine.
Yep.
So, I don't think statutorily there's any question that, you know, it's a pretty well permanently established access. But since we're coming to this point to clean some of these things up, which usually brings it to light, begs the question, should it now then be legally recognized as the access, which every piece of property is supposed to have, a legally recognized access when they're established.
And then if the township approaches the property owner to, you know, they'd have to purchase the right of way. Or extra property, I should say.
I don't know that you need to purchase it since it's already legally established. It's basically just putting a legal string around it. You'll find out for us. Good morning.
So at that intersection of that section line and 126th Street, the north parcel south parcel and the middle parcel are all addressed off of 126th Street right at that point. Whereas before I had them addressed further in.
So do we know, is that the access that the current owner wants for those two pieces of property?
Which two pieces?
For lot 1 and 3?
Uh,
Is there intention to have them accessed?
They're actually gonna access the south lot in between the trees. If you look at 39807, 126th Street text that's on this drawing, you can see the driveway going in between the trees to that south lot. That'll continue.
Well, if that's the access, it should be properly recognized.
No, they'll have their access back here on the section line. I'm just saying, Jim Thayer's owned all three properties. His daughter and son-in-law lived in the middle property, which is lot 2. And the people that they sold that to, Thayer's will still own lot 1 and 3. And we have drawn on here the easement coming off the section line that takes you to both properties.
Okay, but what you're telling me is they don't intend on using that easement, they intend on using the access.
The property owners that are gonna live in the house are gonna use that approach between them trees, if they go down there and use that field.
Well,
Tanner beats, I mean, theirs and, the new buyers.
So that's already been established now.
so once this is approved, the owner of lot 2 can technically tell the owner of lot 3, you don't have access off that property,
He does have access,
not legally,
statutory right-of-way on the section line.
but not through the area that's traditionally been used.
They can fence it off, he doesn't need it.
Because he's getting in where the blue is what you're saying? He doesn't have to go down the road?
Right.
He's gonna get on from 126.
To me, with the topography, that's gonna be a problem.
And the surveyor drew that on the new plat, on the front page, the accesses.
So where these blues are, they can get on that parcel.
That's how the surveyor got on there. That's how he got to the south parcel.
So when the question by dispatch and emergency management is that some of these roads don't even exist on these addresses. It's not that they don't exist, it's just that they don't go as far as what we're saying they do. I guess I'm confused by that.
Well, he had drawn 126th Street all the way up to the house on lot 2.
Okay, yep.
So then that's how I addressed these parcels. But now he's coming back and saying that we need to draw an easement in, if that's the case, because he doesn't know if there's actually a road there or not. Well, the surveyor and myself, looking back at this, if that farm's been there way before the 40s, but Bowling was the last one looked at, that right-of-way has not been vacated on the section line. So there's 66 feet of right-of-way there.
So rather than doing the easement and going through that process, by addressing them what they are, they will know when an emergency vehicle comes, that right there at the corner, when it's 39802 and 39803, will they know that's where the issue is?
Well, we can have them put a post up with the numbers on it.
I'm just trying to figure out what the concern is here for
I think
the emergency side.
from what I was told, I think what their concern is all the way that they know that the curb's even there and where to go up to the property. There was some discussion apparently about having it named, the curb portion being shown as an access and being named even something completely different, like Curry Hills Drive or something.
Oh, so they're concerned about this whole
Yeah,
road.
exactly. That's the concern.
But there's nothing here.
No.
So you'd have, the
'Cause
road
it
has to
doesn't
go that way.
exist, yeah, but that's where they wanted to identify for emergency purposes, that they understand that they gotta take the curve, which...
I've been in many
goes up to
counties
the
during
top
deer
curve.
hunting, pheasant hunting, and so forth, and there's lots of roads, section line roads that go around sloughs, and they don't rename all of them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Well,
yeah,
isn't
because
it
if you're
out?
heading east, you'd literally have to take the
Have to
road.
take
Because that's
the
the
curve.
only
That's
way
your
to
only
get-
access to the house.
Because otherwise it's just grass. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't
The
even...
only way
When I
in.
drove out there, yeah, you have to take the road.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're gonna end up in that field.
And that's what I tried to tell them, you're opening a can of worms to go to this property owner to try to get a right-of-way or an easement when it's already been established over the last 70 years.
There's a lot of places in the county, if you're gonna change where that curve.
Well,
A lot of new roads.
Unless they dedicate it on their side of the property.
Well, planting this property brings it up, but it's similar, but, you know,
Dedicate the
different
right of way.
than legal descriptions that we don't have very many left, but, you know, used to be meets and bounds. And then as they get replatted, then we go to the newer standard here. I mean, I don't think there's any question it's legally established, but at this point, when you start spilling over into adjacent things that you're trying to replat and bring up to current standards for legal descriptions and so forth.
I'll have the owner put a 4x4 post going each direction, and the numbers will be right there on the section line, just like a mailbox.
Mhm.
So the only thing they'd go to them for would be the fire. There's no buildings.
126th Street that is.
Yeah, it did ends right into the property. Yeah, so it doesn't go through
Right.
the slough, obviously.
Does it connect anywhere else?
No, that's the only place it goes.
So you're,
Yeah.
so you're on 126th Street.
Keep going,
You're
you
not
drive
only
right
one
into that
way in
garage.
and one way out.
Oh, okay.
You drive right into the garage if you keep going straight.
We roll with it.
And this area is just kind of north of Como Park, and it's got the river bottom and everything there, so
A mile north of the Como Park Place.
page 2 is an aerial view, kind of zoomed out. There is no 126th Street east of here on that first mile. So I guess for a recap, from the Planning and Zoning Department's point of view, 126th Street is established up to the section line of 398th Avenue. And at that point, you have a statutory right-of-way of 66 feet. And angling to lot 1 and 3, you can get to either lot. The surveyor did that when he was doing surveys. And I addressed them at that point, rather than whatever it is, 200, 300 feet in. And I'll have the owner put up 4x4 with a number on it.
But it should work.
Did you have a motion for that?
Well, I got two concerns. First one is that with those access points, appears that they may be used occasionally and so forth, but on a practical standpoint, Lot 3, and I'm not quite sure how Lot 1, is routinely and historically accessed as one plot off of the access road, not off the intersection, and we're not recognizing that. So depending on what future ownership is, that's potentially a problem. And then just as it comes up, I think at some point, and I don't know that it necessarily needs to hold up the plat itself for that purpose, 126th Street needs to be legally recognized as making that curve coming up to the section line, because it does have standing for its long-standing use for that. But since we're in the area cleaning things up, it's probably high time that we properly recognize that according to state standards.
Well, the concern that I have, and if you look at the access points, they've got the blue shaded access points, and if you drive out there, historically they've accessed the north lot and the south lot. If you look on page 3, right under the 8, like 39807, right under the 8, that's where the driveway is that goes into that property.
Right.
So they would have to, they probably should have an easement, and the same way they show the access, that triangular piece on the north side, that is accessed. There's a little shooting stand, that's what that little square is. That's where they access lots 1. Historically, that's where they've been accessing them, not from the right-of-way line to the west of there.
And I'd like to add that Jim Fair's son-in-law lived in that house at the time.
Yep.
So he accessed them through them because they owned all 3.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the way they've historically accessed. If you drive out there, that's how you get in there.
But the new owner doesn't own them.
Exactly.
And don't have a reason to access them.
So are
Exactly.
are the Thayers aware that they can no longer use that, or that they have to use the other approaches?
They told the new owners that if they wanted to use that shooting bench, that they could.
No, our Thayer's aware that they can no longer,
Go down that road?
unless they had an easement or something giving them the right to access the property here, to come in here and here, where they historically have. That's my concern.
I mean, practically, as long as everybody gets along, they can.
But
The next
legally,
right.
do they have the right to continue to access it there? According to this, once we plat it, no.
Exactly. And that's my concern. Just because they've got this shaded as access points,
I put some shades on there.
doesn't necessarily mean that's where they're going to be able to access it. Because there's no approaches there, and on the north side you've got the grove of trees. If you bring it up on Google Maps, you can clearly see the trees which block that access on the north and the south side.
But correct me if I'm wrong, it's not our job to say you have to access it here. If they're fine without the easement and accessing it from the spot that blue shades are, as long as they're aware, that's not our job to say go get the easement. If they already have one access to it, our job is done.
Well, and my question is, would they actually have access to it? So that's...
And you're saying they do. In those blue spots, there's an approach there.
They can, I mean, if they need to take out extra trees, they can take out extra trees.
But there's no approaches there. They could go down through the ditch to access it, but there are no approaches there. The approaches are right under the approach to the south lot 3 is right under the 8. You can see that approach,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on the map.
So I guess we just need to figure out what the conversation was, if they're planning to put an approach in, or if they're gonna use that area. Because I'm not comfortable telling somebody they have to go in an easement if they don't.
Well, my concern is when and if the Gates ever sell that property,
Mhm.
then are they gonna have legal access to Lot 1 and Lot 3?
Sure.
So maybe now is the
It's
time
time
to do
to
it
figure
right.
it out.
And 126th Street, where do you say that the 126th Street ends? At the building where the house is at the section line, halfway in between? Because that's been established for 70 years all the way to these buildings. And if you can turn left or turn right off of that 126th Street. So on 126th Street, where does that end?
I would say at the section line.
So is the rest of it considered private driveway?
Yes.
That's a question for the
That's not how we've
township.
had it drawn on the GIS all these years.
That's a
There's
conversation.
nothing really in the research of the deeds and stuff.
Because on page 3, the plat clearly shows that they own the property on either side of that road. To me, it's a private driveway from the section line east. That's where the private driveway would begin, and 126 would end.
And we should have a conversation with the township and the landowner to see what their preference and understanding is.
Yep.
Now is the time to do it right, I think,
Mhm.
as long as it's being redone.
Because we have plenty of shared access, shared driveways with dedicated easements on private property. A situation like this where it has the potential to be a designated road, then it would require right-of-way and so forth, and know where the end of it is. And we should clarify that, and it should be properly represented in whatever legal documents we file going forward.
I will talk to Jim Thayer myself and ask him to trim some trees back to clear them easements and then put up 4x4 posts with 5 house numbers on them.
He's the current property owner for the entire thing right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, just the concern is going forward, as these are split up and have the potential to be owned by different landowners, what has historically been used, and that's part of what we're using for the access in here, is the current alignment for 126 where it goes around and curves up. Is his intent that that access into Lot 1 and 3 continue as it's historically been used? If so, there needs to be a legally recognized access easement. And if he doesn't care and wants future to be potentially forced to go off the right-of-way of the section line that's currently not being utilized.
So what's the resolve here? Talk to him, or what? Do we approve the other plats and leave this one out?
That would be my preference.
I think we postponed, delay.
They did not want
approving
to
this one.
postpone it.
Well,
So that's up to you guys what you want to do there.
what they want and what we're forced to do to make it right, I think are two different things. Because now's the time to do it right.
Well, do you got a contact number for him? Call him up quick.
Farming wise, the lot to the south, they come in from the south because he owns that parcel, and same way on the north lot. So farming wise, he always came in on a different route, but accessing from the house when they live there, they pop in on the approach. I do have his number up back in my office, but I don't have it with me.
So essentially, the implements behind this is basically for transferring the home site and financing and so forth. That's
Yes.
basically what brought it up in the first place, I assume.
His son-in-law is moving into his house on Brown County 10 North,
Okay.
and then they're selling this to Tanner and Katie Gates.
So they prefer to have it done today. Can they wait a week to get some of this ironed out?
I didn't talk to Jim on that, I talked to Randy.
Well, everybody's already living where they're living, so another week, I don't think. I mean, the gate's already moved in,
Yeah.
so.
You know, what they're trying to finalize goes on financing and the rest of that stuff.
I would entertain a motion to approve the plats, all except the Thayer's plat due to some discrepancies as far as how that needs to be planned out, and we'll let Scott do a little checking on that, and then probably get back to us next Tuesday. Does that work?
Move. Second.
Moved by Weed, second by Sutton, to approve the plats, all except for Thayer's plat, depending on some additional information that will be decided next Tuesday. All in
And
favor?
I'd say it's important to let him know, we're not forcing anybody to do easements. If he's comfortable taking out trees and doing it from the corner, that's great, we just wanna make sure he knows what he's getting into. We're
And
not in
gonna-
the business of making people do that stuff.
And we're not entertaining the idea of changing the road name and all that
No,
stuff either,
no.
like Madsen wants.
No.
Okay.
No, but I think we need to get 126th Street, since it's
And
got
also,
precedent and stuff there.
and
at some
also
point.
let's touch base with somebody in Cambria Township and see where 126
Right.
historically ends, because if they're cleaning stuff they don't need to be cleaning, you can't have it both ways. If it's your property, take care of your property. If it's the township's, then we'll do what we want with it, you know, or they will.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, it's the same kind of thing, only a little bit different. We've had legal restrictions for years in our opinion, but there still are, that are meets and bounds, which is not what we do currently, and anytime that we replat something, we don't use those measurements anymore.
Okay, we have our motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
So those are good with this one.
All right.
You want this back? You just keep this?
Do you want your
Separate.
plat back?
When you sign
Hang on
it.
to that.
I won't need it right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
I would say 126 should end at that section line, and then it's private from there into the property. That would make sense.
But if the township and the property owner get different ideas, I
Yep.
just would like to see us clarify that as well.
Kathy, next item?
Yeah, we have a disinterment permit.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Shipley, second by Lees, to approve the disinterment permit. Hard to say for me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Easy for you.
Quick claim deed, this is from that tax deed sale for that 8-foot lot.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Lees, to authorize signing the quick claim deed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's everything, Cash.
Terry, do you have anything?
Just one item, were you still moving forward on for the September, or next week's HR report on the welfare director position and what you discussed during the budget process?
I think yes.
I assume so, but nothing formal's been said, so we'll get it on
Yeah,
next
put it
week's
on
HR report then.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Can I
Yep.
get clarification on that? So we're hiring for a welfare director? Or?
No, we're naming her.
Naming a welfare,
her
okay.
as permanent welfare director.
Under an interim, she will be the...
Okay.
The welfare director.
Sounds good.
Erica, did you need a quick exec?
Yes, please.
Move it.
For
For
personnel?
personnel?
Yes.
Second.
Moved by Kefley, second by Weiss, to go into exec for personnel, with Erica being present.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Exec, from personnel, there's no action as a result.
Budget.
Anything else come before the commission? Kathy, you wanted, is something you want to have, camera, or is this just a little
It's
budget
just
session?
an update on some of the reports that the
Should we do
chief
that?
made. So we can probably adjourn if we're going to.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
In another world.
We are adjourned.